Hello and welcome to another installment of the Bygone Times. Today we're going to take a look at this pretty little ashtray with kind of a faraway scene, well, depending on where you live in the world. For me here in the United States, this is a faraway scene of a desert land with, I think, a man riding a camel. This ashtray is kind of high gloss, as you can see, front and back. It has no markings on it. And so originally I thought it was likely that this was a piece of Royal Bayreuth, a German porcelain maker. We won't go into Royal Bayreuth here because I'm pretty confident that this is not. Now Bayreuth, this is pretty thick ceramic porcelain. Royal Bayreuth is usually finer porcelain than that, thinner, and you can almost see through it. This is not translucent at all. So upon researching this scene in particular, and then kind of drawing on my own personal experience and looking at some other pieces, I'm pretty confident that this was made by Noritake. So I'll try to run through the history of Noritake here, and I'm going to no doubt get some of the names involved wrong. They're Japanese names, and I am clearly not a native Japanese speaker. But basically today there is Noritake Company Limited, which is a tableware and technology company in Japan. Now it began way back in 1876 when a man named Ichizaemon Morimura VI and his brother Toyo founded Morimura Gumi, and they wanted to establish an overseas trading company, basically. They ended up initially selling, was kind of moving part of the business at least to New York and selling Japanese antiques here, and they renamed their company to Morimura Brothers, and then decided to start creating pottery and porcelain in the late 1800s. In 1904, they created the Nippon Toki Kaisha Limited Company in Japan. A new factory was built in Noritake, and that's kind of where the name of the china came from, the ceramic. It was called Noritake colloquially, even though that wasn't the name of the company. So Noritake was easier, I suppose, to roll off the tongue than Nippon Toki Kaisha Limited. And they, by the teens, they were creating their first kind of Western style dinner set, and then they moved into making other pieces of ceramic and porcelain ware, and they continue to make pieces today in dinnerware. If you are into collecting antique porcelain and ceramic, you probably will recognize this basic style of the high gloss with the applique or applied painting. So this is not hand painted. It's basically a pattern that's applied to the mold in the processing before the finish is fired on top. There's usually with Noritake and also Nippon where there is some gold involved, and you can see here the gold trim along the edges of the cigarette rusts. Another strong indication that we have a piece of Noritake. So it's kind of interesting. We'll talk just briefly about the functionality of this too. If you're watching this, you're probably familiar and have grown up with some degree of ashtrays in your life, but it's nearly a foreign concept these days. So in case you're not familiar, the idea was you would have a lit cigarette. The lit end would be here, and you would rest it here in between taking puffs off of it, and the ashes would fall into the well there. And when you were done, you would smash down the ashes to stop the burning. But this one has, if it's been used in that capacity, it's been lightly used. There's not much scratching of any kind on the shiny surface. So this particular pattern, I don't know exactly what it's called, but you can find it in other pieces that are available, on eBay and antique stores and so forth. And it's usually on bigger items, so maybe teapots or plates or pickle dishes or something, and it's extended. And the scene will extend this way, and it extends this way. And usually out here to the right, it's not too far off screen, if you will, from where this ashtray ends. There's actually a pyramid. So it may be, a scene from Egypt, which would make some sense if there's a pyramid. At least when this was being produced in the, early part of the 1900s, that's definitely where folks thought of pyramids being, and mostly that's where I think we think of them being today. So this one is in really nice shape. As I said, there's not much scratching or no chips or anything. You can see a little bit of staining and discoloration from where it's set on a shelf or wherever it has been for all these years. But otherwise, it's in pretty pristine condition. Now, having said that, it's not that uncommon of a piece. I mean, I haven't seen really ashtrays with this pattern, but you see the pattern in a lot of places. You see Noritake from this vintage in a lot of places. So, the value of this is going to be, maybe $20, maybe up to $40 or so, depending on the venue and, what kind of buyer you run into. If you've got a hardcore collector who's just missing this piece to complete a run of this pattern, then you might be able to get a small premium. But that's kind of the general range. It's not a bank breaker by any means, but is an interesting piece, has an interesting history from a functionality standpoint, since there are hardly any ashtrays running around out in the wild these days, and the scene is also pretty interesting. So there you have it, a Noritake ashtray with a desert scene on it from the early 1900s. Thank you for watching.